Tonight, a year since October 7th, marking the bloodiest terror attack on Israel. Mourning loved ones killed by Hamas and desperate calls to save the captives.
She was murdered in captivity.
A spiraling war with civilians caught in the crossfire on new fronts.
They had to watch her bleed out to death.
The demonstrations and commemorations across Canada. Hurricane-ravaged Florida braces for another ferocious storm.
It's kind of like getting punched in the face twice.
An alleged contamination cover-up uncovered in a First Nation.
It seems that the government always tries to hide everything.
Plus, the warnings about a severe nutrient deficiency making a comeback among Canadians.
We classically will think of as, an archaic diagnosis, something from back in the 18th century.
And remembering a musical powerhouse in her own right. Grammy-winning singer and Whitney's mother, Cissy Houston, dies.
The times I
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. At the site of the Hamas attack that shook the world exactly 1 year ago today, thousands gathered on a somber anniversary. A woman could be heard wailing in grief during the minute of silence at the location of the Nova Music Festival. It's where Noah Yaffe's little brother was murdered. A musician killed just weeks before his 23rd birthday.
And I miss him so much. I just want to hug him and listen to his voice again.
And inescapable pain in Gaza. Almost half of those killed have been children. Minal Abu Qatar is now responsible for her 8 grandchildren after their fathers, her 2 sons, were killed in an Israeli strike. A loss she says she can't bear. The Israeli offensive has killed about 42,000 Palestinians, according to local health officials. The October 7th Hamas attack killing 1,200 Israelis. And of the 251 taken hostage by Hamas, 101 remain in captivity. CTV's Heather Wright starts us off tonight from Tel Aviv.
Before the sun rose today, loved ones gathered in southern Israel. The site of the Nova Music Festival, now a memorial to the 365 people murdered here. The sun was just rising 1 year ago when Hamas militants stormed across the border and began their rampage. Today, hundreds gathered to remember and mourn.
This is not something I choose. This is something I got as a fact. We lost our son here. He was at the party. He was murdered.
Memorials were held across Israel today to mark 1 year since the Hamas attack that killed 1,200 people, hundreds more kidnapped to Gaza. Yoav Shimoni lives in Toronto but returned to Israel to pay tribute to his grandmother, who was killed in her home in Kibbutz Nir Oz. A video of her dying moments posted to her Facebook page by her killers.
And those images, the shirt she was wearing, the way her arms were, her facial expression, those are all images I can't get out of my head.
There is grief here and anger. Hundreds marched outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Jerusalem residence, critical of the escalating conflict and worried about the fate of the hostages still being held in Gaza.
A nightmare. A nightmare that we are living it. Shiri's wife.
Alfrey Bibas's brother, sister-in-law Shiri, and nephews Ariel and Kafir Bibas were kidnapped on October 7th. The boys are the youngest held in Gaza. Hamas claims Shiri and her sons were killed. Israel refutes the claim. The family remains hopeful, but fearful.
I'm really worried that the focus is now up north and that they are being sacrificed over there or something.
The anniversary marks 12 months of profound grief and trauma in both Israel and Gaza, where the death toll is now more than 40,000, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. While Hamas has been degraded, they have not been defeated. Several rockets were fired at Tel Aviv today. And as Israel conducts fresh operations in northern Gaza, people are once again being told to leave. We don't know where to go, Rawa Abu Jamia says. We couldn't find a safe place. Nowhere in Gaza is safe. Sarah Davies is with the International Committee of the Red Cross and is in Rafah, where thousands are living day by day in makeshift tents.
To be very honest, people here don't have the luxury of thinking about the future right now because they're surviving every hour or every day or every week.
Many Israelis, too, feel stuck on October 7th, 2023, unable to move forward, demanding an end to the conflict.
Stop this war. I want my cousin back.
There are growing calls here for accountability from the government, both for its failures in preventing October 7th and for not intervening sooner during the rampage. Israel's prime minister has said any investigation must wait until the war is over. Omar.
CTV's Heather Wright in Tel Aviv. And there are escalating tensions in that war tonight. Sirens rang out today across Tel Aviv after Israel said it intercepted more than 100 Hezbollah rockets and what it called projectiles by Yemen's Houthis and Hamas. The IDF intensifying its assault on Beirut and parts of southern Lebanon and also launching a raid in the West Bank that Palestinian officials say killed a 12-year-old boy. There is no end in sight to the violence in an expanding regional war. CTV's Adrian Gobriel takes a look back to what has led to this moment.
12 months of war has delivered a year of tragedy and destruction at a staggering scale across the Middle East. October 8th, just one day after Hamas's attack, Hezbollah and Israel exchanged fire, bringing the first fears of a wider war to the world.
The unprecedented nature of our situation calls for an unprecedented response.
And respond, Israel did, unleashing a siege on Gaza. Airstrikes decimated buildings and infrastructure, while revealing the first glimpse this conflict would bring. October 27th, Israel launches a ground assault on Gaza, eventually ordering Palestinians to head south, triggering the mass migration of hundreds of thousands. At the Rafah border crossing, some Canadians are able to secure passage out of the war-torn country.
I smell blood in the street. I smell death in the street, wherever you go.
While other Palestinian Canadians struggle to get their loved ones out before it's too late.
I already lost 15 members of my direct and indirect family.
15. In Israel, a parallel pain shared by those whose loved ones were unaccounted for, including Canadians in the days following the attack by Hamas.
She told me that they're inside the house.
Those are the last words you spoke?
Yeah.
Though in Gaza, as days of bombardment turned to weeks and then months, the toll of this war on innocent lives gathered more global attention. As the number of aid trucks waiting to get into Gaza grew, so did the humanitarian crisis. Hospitals, short on supplies, tend to the staggering number of wounded while also coming under fire. Neonatal wards struggled to keep operating as doctors, including some Canadians, risked their lives to try and save others.
Everyone in Gaza at the moment knows that life is day by day. I know that I may, call him one day and not find anyone on the other line.
This satellite image shows Gaza's Rafah crossing and Khan Yunis before October 7th. This is what it looks like today. In January, South Africa brought a case to the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of genocidal conduct. Since then, the conflict has only escalated as its scope has grown wider.
With the IDF and Hezbollah now engaged in fighting in southern Lebanon, many are waiting to see how Israel will respond to Iran's most recent attack as this conflict plumes into a full-scale regional war with so many innocent lives still caught in the crossfire. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. The conflict in the Middle East has also been top of mind for many Canadians in cities across this country, where even here, 1 year later, there is grief and anger. CTV's Mike LeCouture explains.
Hundreds gathered in downtown Montreal in support of the Palestinian people and demanding universities divest from companies linked to Israel.
For the past year, we've seen our administration refuse to answer the demands of the students.
And so they marched in the streets, sometimes against traffic, leading to at least one confrontation with a driver. Cooler heads did prevail, but it didn't last. Some protesters were seen spray painting buildings under construction. And then, the sound of broken glass drew cheers as a few protesters smashed windows on McGill campus.
No more crimes, no more hate.
Other pro-Palestinian protests were peaceful, many choosing instead to focus on the people they've lost over the last year. More than 200 members of Hala al-Sharar's extended family have died in Gaza.
Each one of them has a name and they have a story, and they went from, the youngest was only like a few months old, and now one of the oldest is over 60.
Those killed and taken hostage were at the heart of some pro-Israel demonstrations across the country. The names and faces were put on posters at McGill. The sense of emptiness is unshakable for people who lost loved ones on October 7th.
Can't believe it. Sometimes I'm waking up in the morning and I'm telling myself what a horrible dream I have had.
An evening vigil in Toronto brought together thousands with a message of solidarity. That was echoed by the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition at another vigil in Ottawa.
It is incumbent on me and on every leader, from premiers to police chiefs, to give anti-Semitism no quarter.
They see the same motives and vicious hatred carried out on our very streets.
Poilievre punctuated his speech with some politics, reiterating his support for Israel to defend itself, saying that right even includes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you. From war to an intensifying natural disaster now, an urgent warning in Florida tonight, where another major storm is threatening the state. Hurricane Milton, now a Category 5, forcing Americans and some Canadians to brace themselves for what's predicted to be a major hit for the second time in just 2 weeks. CTV's Allison Bamford reports.
Birth certificates, letters.
Stacks of containers filled with family keepsakes.
There's photo albums, and then the really old stuff is in these ones.
It will all be left behind when Mark Taylor and his family head for higher ground tomorrow, the third evacuation order for the Canadians since they moved to Florida 3 years ago.
It's crazy, and it's about to get worse.
This is Taylor's neighborhood. Contents of entire homes kicked to the curb, destroyed from Hurricane Helene's floods. The threat of Milton and its potential for a record-breaking surge is even more concerning.
There's more of a panic in the neighborhood. A lot of locals are leaving, and I haven't seen that.
I have the state emergency response team preparing for the largest evacuation that we have seen, most likely since 2017 Hurricane Irma.
Hurricane Milton is churning its way to Florida's Gulf Coast, expected to hit Wednesday.
We had a lot of debris left from Hurricane Helene on Florida's Gulf Coast. That creates a huge hazard if you have a major hurricane hit in that area.
South of Tampa, Canadians Cindy Edwards and her husband Colin are clearing as much as they can from their damaged rental property before they evacuate.
We bought here in 2006, and we've never been through anything like this.
But we're about to get far worse, is what we're hearing, and we believe it.
They've accepted what's coming. Others are grasping at straws, desperate to save what they can.
They're using week-old plywood that is still soaking from the last storm and trying to cover their windows with that same plywood.
As many prepare to leave, travel advisories are in place, urging others to stay away and avoid non-essential travel to the region. Allison Bamford, CTV News.
Wild scenes on the road in Toronto today in what appears to be an act of road rage.
An occupant in the black pickup actually shot at the Kia motor vehicle.
That's the Kia that flipped over after colliding with a garbage truck after the incident. 2 people inside were taken to hospital. A small community in northern Alberta is alleging a serious cover-up by the federal government. People in Fort Chipewyan are outraged that a report that appears to confirm potentially cancer-causing contamination on their waterfront was never made public. Now they are demanding action and accountability from Ottawa. CTV's Andrew Johnson has more from Fort Chipewyan.
It's pretty scary stuff.
At the waterfront she's known since childhood, April Mercredi paints a disturbing picture of life in Fort Chipewyan, Alberta.
To drink the water, to eat the fish, knowing that it's killing us, but yet we still got to do it because we don't have a choice. And we don't want to move. Where are we going to go?
Local leaders are asking people to avoid fishing and swimming off the federally owned dock because of contamination. Drinking water is sourced nearby. The town says it just recently learned of the issue 7 years after the presence of potentially carcinogenic chemicals was confirmed in this 2017 government report, citing historical industrial activity and creosote-treated infrastructure. We asked the new transport minister about that today.
My understanding is that the severe health risks that we're seeing now were not evident at that time. But of course, having been in the role for just 2 weeks, I want to stress that on the go forward, I take this issue very seriously.
The site is listed as a medium priority on a federal database. Locals maintain their health is being compromised.
I live in this community. I see the people dying of rare cancers.
An Alberta government report released a decade ago did confirm higher rates of 3 kinds of cancer.
Come and see our situation and live it and drink the water. When they come to our meetings, they bring in the bottled water. Like, why do they do that?
Fort Chipewyan is downstream from the oil sands, another factor that stokes suspicion, especially after multiple tailings pond spills in northern Alberta 2 years ago. In August, Ottawa announced a 10-year community-led health study into oil sands impact.
It seems that the government always tries to hide everything. I have to say that, I'm sorry.
They are calling for their drinking water intake to be moved and the dock area cleaned up and dredged. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Fort Chipewyan, Alberta.
Coming up, the return of scurvy and the reason why. People usually think of sailors from the 18th century when they think of a disease like scurvy, but it still occurs today and is linked to growing food insecurity across this country. CTV's Kathy Lee has more.
Bleeding gums and large patches of bruising, some of the main symptoms of scurvy, found in a 65-year-old woman who was treated in a Toronto hospital. Her case detailed in a recent study.
We classically will think of as an archaic diagnosis, something from back in the 18th century.
But it's not. The disease, which develops after prolonged vitamin C deficiency, still exists today. The report draws links between scurvy and growing food insecurity, when people who can't afford groceries either skip meals or buy cheaper, less nutritional items.
It really was canned foods, highly processed foods only that this person was consuming.
A StatsCan report shows in 2023, food insecurity was 22.9%, up from 18.4% the year before.
With higher food prices, people have decided to leave the periphery of the store where you find fresh produce, when you find a lot of vitamins and minerals, and people will go to the center of the store to find anything to eat, any calories really.
It is expensive, and depending on what you eat and what your diet is, sometimes it's easier to go for the stuff that's cheaper and not as nutritious.
While scurvy isn't considered prevalent in Canada, as nutrition continues to lack for struggling families, the authors in the study call on Canadian physicians to consider the possibility of scurvy among their patients.
Physicians need to be thinking about vitamin C deficiency on the list of possibilities in order to make that diagnosis.
The study suggests that doctors should consider patients at higher risk of vitamin C deficiency, including children, smokers, and those who have substance abuse disorder. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Still ahead, a rumbling rock illuminates the night sky. Some dramatic video of a meteor over eastern Ontario. It was captured by Western University's cameras as it roared across the night sky and then disappeared, pieces likely falling into the lake and onto the ground. LeBron James and his son Bronny have made NBA history.
LeBron James and LeBron James Jr. are on the floor.
The first father and son duo to play together on the same team and on the same day. LeBron also marking his 22nd season in the league, son Bronny making his debut and on his 20th birthday. Ticketmaster is tightening rules around how fans can transfer Taylor Swift tickets after a surge in reported scams.
It was very quick and I didn't have enough time to stop anything.
It's like very devastating to be very excited for something.
Some fans from different parts of the world found themselves in the exact same situation after spending thousands to see the pop star in Toronto next month. They received unexpected messages from Ticketmaster saying their tickets were being transferred. Cybersecurity experts say accounts were likely hacked and the ticketing giant has opened an investigation. After the break, remembering Grammy-winning artist Cissy Houston. Two-time Grammy-winning singer Cissy Houston has died. She graced the stage with the likes of Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, and Elvis. She was also mother to superstar Whitney Houston. CTV's Andrea Case has her story.
Me and you against the world.
We have come to know her as Whitney's mom, Cissy Houston, born Emily Drinkard. You could say she was born to sing, performing at New Hope Baptist Church in Newark, New Jersey in 1938. At the age of 5, she began her singing career with her sister and 2 brothers. In 1963, she joined with 3 other women. Unofficially, they were known as Cissy's Girls, performing backup on hundreds of songs. In 1969, they got a call from Jerry Wexler, Elvis Presley's music producer. They went to work singing backing vocals for Presley in Las Vegas. Houston said it was a gig and a good one. It was Wexler who gave the group the name The Sweet Inspirations. Cissy always believed the group failed to receive the credit they deserved with their own singles, Sweet Inspiration, Let It Be Me, and Unchained Melody. She left the group because she wanted to raise her family and concentrate as a solo artist. The church was always a part of her life, and it was her gospel recordings which landed Houston 2 Grammy Awards. She married John Houston in 1964, separated in 1977, and divorced in 1991. But when daughter Whitney Houston announced at 12 she wanted to be a singer, Mom Cissy carefully trained her, as reflected in Houston's Greatest Love of All video. Long before Whitney's success, she began her professional career singing backup for her mother and eventually collaborating on a duet, Ain't No Way. From there was no stopping Whitney. Cissy Houston was in hospice care at home for Alzheimer's disease. Her daughter-in-law, Pat Houston, said in a statement, Mother Cissy was a woman of deep faith and conviction and died in her New Jersey home today at the age of 91. Andrea Case, CTV News.
And that is a snapshot of this Monday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.